Hi, this is Kathi Quinn with Floriani. Floriani is a division of R&K Distributing, and I want to welcome you to this week's Project of the Week. Well, this week I want to explore a fun technique, something that I love the look of, and we can actually create it in the hoop and go ahead and do it, and it's chenilling. Chenilling is when you've got layers of fabric that are cut and they fray, so they kind of bloom or rough up and they look really good. So it's fun to put in flowers and different parts of your designs. But chenilling to do in the hoop takes a specific way to digitize. So we're going to look at how would we do that today. Now the first thing we need to do is we need to look at our grid. So I'm going to come up along my ruler bar here, anywhere on it, and right mouse click, and my grid settings come up. Now the first thing is I'm going to go to my grid settings, and I'm going to create a 1/4 inch grid. Now chenilling is like channels. You're going to create channels of stitches so you can cut the fabric in between the channels. And you could do it 1/2 inch apart, 1/4 inch apart. We're going to do ours today, a 1/4 inch apart. Then you would cut the fabric along those channels, rough it up, and when you wash it, it's just going to kind of bloom. So it's a lot of fun. So I've got that set at 1/4 inch. Now I want it to snap to grid. This will make it easy for me to create this in our Floriani software. Now you can use any shape you want, but I'm going to suggest when you start with something easy. Do a square until you get the idea. Then you can adapt it to different shapes. So I'm going to touch OK. Like I say, I've got my snap to grid on, and I've got 1/4 inch. I'm going to say OK, and my grid is set. So these lines are exactly a 1/4 inch apart. So I'm going to come up to my Shapes tool, my custom shapes, and I'm going to go ahead and select the box. Now I'm going to go to Transform, and I'm going to make this box 4 inches. So I've got a 4-inch box, and I'm going to apply. Now the first thing I need to do is create a running stitch, a placement line. So we would take our fabric, we're putting on top of another piece of fabric. We're going to go ahead and hoop that up. And let's say we're going to make a box that has chenille on it. So I've got my fabric hooped, and I need a placement line on top of my base fabric. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click a run stitch, left mouse click, right here in our left hand lower corner to create my run. So now this is going to put a placement line on my fabric, and I'm probably going to change my stitch length to about 3 because it really doesn't need to be a tight little stitch. So there is our first run line. So I'll lay one piece of fabric down on top of this. Now I will need to tack that single piece of fabric down. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to right mouse click copy and right mouse click paste. I want that right on top of this line, and I'm going to make that a different color. So you can see we have a placement line and a tack down line. So we've got our single tack down. Now we're going to go ahead and create our chenille channels. So we're going to come up, and since I've got snap to grid on, I'm going to go ahead and come up and I'm going to select my line tool, because remember, I always start with artwork. So I'm going to left mouse click on the line tool, and then I'm going to left mouse click, and I'm going to come across and left mouse click. Now because I have snap to grid, even if I'm a little off, it's going to jump right onto that grid point. So now I'm going to come straight down this side, left mouse click, and I'm going to come across and left mouse click down. Okay, so far we're left mouse clicking, and you notice I'm leaving one end open every time, and we'll see that in a moment real clear. So you're going to continue through this with a series of left mouse clicks. And we're just going to go along these grid lines so that I know they are a perfect 1/4 inch apart. Like I say, we could have picked 1/2 inch apart, whatever you want your width to be. Now you don't ever want it to get it too wide. I mean, we don't want anything like 1 inch wide, but we're just going to come along I'm just going to continue this left mouse clicking until I finish my whole 4-inch square. Like I say, this could be any shape, but I suggest the first time you do it, let's start with something easy like a square. Okay, so now I have done a series of left mouse clicks and I've done it all. I'm going to right mouse click to create those lines. Now I'm going to select them over here in my sequence view. I'm going to left mouse click on that artwork and I'm going to change the color so we can see it clearly. Now we notice over here in our sequence view, I'll close this so you can see it good, these are still artwork lines. So I'm going to come down to my run stitch, left mouse click, and now I have created a run stitch. Now I closed my properties window so you could see this well. So I need to come back up to the top here and you'll notice there's the view box and we're going to come over to the properties and left mouse click to open it back up. I'm going to change this to a 3 stitch length as well. I will apply that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to close this back down because I want to look in here. Now I'm going to left mouse click on my second square on the eyeball and close it, and I'm going to left mouse click on my grid on the eyeball to close it. So now I can see my original, and let's turn this a darker color so you can see it well. There we go. So now here is my original square, my placement line. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to the left hand side, come down to our third icon, which is our shape icon, and I'm going to left mouse click on that because I want to place my start and stop point. Now you notice I've got blue boxes. Those are my outline. By moving these, I could change this if I wanted to. Undoes my friend, so it's going to go right back down. Now here is my stop and here is my start. I don't ever want to start right on the corner. I want to start somewhere on a side. So I'm going to start here and I'm going to also stop in the same place. That way I have a single line around. I just want a single line. Now we want to check that out to make sure that it's doing what we want. So with my redraw, I'm just going to drag this. Okay, so perfect. It didn't continue around anymore. Didn't do a square and a half. It stopped perfectly where I wanted it. So now I'm going to close that eye by left mouse clicking on it. And all it's doing is putting our sequences to sleep so we can see just a specific aspect of our design to work with. Now I'm going to open the next eye and I'm going to do the very same thing here. Let's go get that shape tool. Let's make sure we have a good start and stop. And this time I'm going to start and stop on the other side of the square. Now we will have placed one piece of fabric, and once I've moved those, I'm sorry, you have to push enter to make that real. I can move them, but if I don't push enter, it won't become real. So we had those, we pressed enter. Now let's check and make sure this one is drawing like I want it. Absolutely perfect. So we're good there. Now I'm going to close this one as well. And now we're going to open the grid. Now I want you to look at how this is. I want you to notice I have channels here that are open. You can open, each channel has an opening either on the right or the left. Now let's make sure, let's come to our shape. Okay, this one has got our start here and our stop here. I don't want that. I want to start over here at the very beginning, and I want this to stitch continually one stitch. There we go. This is one single path. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay, that's what I want. So now what's going to happen is we've put down one piece of fabric. Let's go ahead and open all of these up and look at what we're doing. First is my placement line. Now I'm going to lay down my base fabric, whatever that's going to be, whichever color. Now I'm going to tack that fabric down. Now I'm going to take 4 pieces. Now when I say fabric, we need a fabric that'll fray. Cotton or rayon, something that's going to fray nice. You can't use a poly. Silk can be done, but it's not real good. Mostly people chenille with cottons or rayons. Rayons really chenille nice. Now that we've got this, we're going to put a stack of 4. They could be the same color. They could be some different colors, depending on your look. Once they're stacked up neatly there, we are going to go ahead and do our grid. So this is going to start stitching a grid down to hold those, but it's got an opening on either side. So once these are done, then we're going to come in. There we go. Then you're going to come in here and it will have, we've got that base fabric that's held down. But now the top 4 fabrics, we have an opening where I can slice this fabric, put some scissors in and slice down the middle and slice down the middle. And we're going to continue to do this to every one. Now those stitches are going to hold on either side. Once those are all cut up, you can come in there and you can kind of rough it up with a stiff toothbrush, or you can actually buy a brush for chenille. And then when you wash it, this is going to ravel and bloom and it looks really, really nice. And you can do this with shapes. You can do it with hearts on the back of a vest. There's so much you can do with a chenilling technique. So I hope you enjoyed this week's lesson. I hope you try chenilling. I think you'll like it. And there's so much you can do to add dimensions to your design with this simple, fun technique. So I look forward to seeing you again next week. Have a wonderful evening. See you then.